Hey there. Been a while. Just making a new video today, basically in regards to Ash versus Cynthia Part 2. Now, I had given my opinions to things all the way up through the last break that happened in August. So, quick recap on all of that. Wasn't thrilled with, having a second break and recap episode when as early as late spring we had the potential to do some epic 3 4 parters for all 8 of the champions in the most important tournament in the series thus far, probably the biggest, most epic thing we'll ever see. Very too early to tell. Now with that said, Leon versus Diantha. I've made my thoughts clear about this on UPN, and I won't spend too much time on it. They weren't even worth my time to make a video. Just bringing them up here now for context, in case you're wondering, okay, why is he skipping over some things? All right, Leon versus Diantha was ridiculously bad, very rushed. All we had were, rushed one frames of seeing Diantha's team trampled by Leon's, and we had basically what was a 1.5 battle that was okay, but 1.5 battle at the end there. I don't want to elaborate more on it. Um, Ash versus Cynthia, part one. Um, if you're just following my videos to keep tabs on the Pokemon anime, this is where there's going to be a pitfall for that because I don't want to talk too much about part one. Most people really liked it. I didn't. And I'm just going to get to the point of why. Um, so Cynthia's um, what was it again? It was a little a few weeks ago or so. The point. Well, here's the point. Um, Ash's Dragonite was put to sleep. It wasn't knocked out, so it um, it was just sleeping there. Oh yeah, it was her whatchamacallit, Spiritomb. So it puts Dragonite to sleep, and Dragonite is just laying there on the ground. Ash calls out to it 2 or 3 times to wake up, wake up, wake up, and that's it. And Dream Meter's used on it several times, and she's knocked out. That's a problem. So, over the last 5 months, I've actually used Twitter more than I ever have since I first got in 2008. And the thing about that is, I've spent time, a few posts talking about this, and it was turned into a back and forth thing. And as you can see with my current weight, I haven't necessarily done very well in the health department the last 2 or 3 years. That's off topic though. But I will say, I do wonder how so many people can spend so much time just lurking around on Twitter or Facebook like all day. I mean, teach their own, but it kind of feels like a waste. So I did feel the quicksand coming, and I realized I was going to be going back and forth with some people might even be as young as 13, which I'm not interested in spending my time doing, debating a 13-year-old. But people were going back and forth about how it was okay that that plot device played out because, well, if Ash called that Dragonite, it would just be asleep when he called it out again later. And some people would say, well, maybe, maybe. First thing, game mechanics don't translate to the anime. We know that. And the second thing, yeah, maybe it would still be asleep. But if it was attacked by a physical attack, if we are going with game mechanics, it would probably wake up after a hit or two. Dream Eater is going to kill your Pokemon, almost literally, if you leave it out there when it's asleep. Ash should have called it back. And that's what I have to say. It tanked it for me. This wasn't a formative battle for Ash, like in Kanto, or even maybe a less stellar gym battle screw up. Like when he fought Elise and Unova, and he was screwing up at first, even though he had no business at that point in his career to be performing so badly in his battles. The point is, that had no business being in the second most important battle of Ash's life if he defeats Cynthia and goes on to fight Leon. Now, let's get to the good part. So, Ash for Cynthia part 2. Yes, I skipped over everything else. You have to watch it for yourself, read about it, or listen to other PokeTubers talking about it. So this part was much, 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 much better. Um, Dracovish was a boss. I'm not going to recap the whole battle. You can watch some reaction videos for that or watch the episode yourself. But Dracovish did a very good job. I almost want to give this a 10 out of 10. I have to take 1 point off for one thing. So 1 point Dracovish is poisoned, and it refuses to be called back to its Pokeball because it wants to battle and prove that it can win even while it's poisoned. A lot of people liked that. I didn't. There's no reason this late in the game for any reason. I mean, you could argue, well, why doesn't Pikachu just go in its Pokeball? But um, the point is, there really isn't any reason this late in the story, if this is Ash's penultimate battle, for a Pokemon of his to not obey. Like, it was following orders, it did battle stellar, it was a great battle, but I felt it was out of place to write that in. Dracovish refusing to be called back. It They should have used something else, like it temporarily was flinched, or they thought it was going to faint, but it didn't. Anyway, speaking of that, Dracovish is eventually knocked out after putting up a very good fight against, you know, um, several of Cynthia's Pokemon. But again, not going to recap the whole thing. But Surfetched is used next, and Surfetched for the first time really shows that's spectacular at battle. And people were talking about how they were worried for Ash because Dragonite and Gengar and Pikachu, people decided, were Ash's first tier Pokemon of his six in his current team, and they were the OGs. That's all very arbitrary. I mean, he didn't get Farfetch, which turned to Surfetch not that long after. He didn't get Riola, which evolved into Lucario not that long after. Dracovish was Elias, and that was a while ago too. And they've all had development, as some lacking a lot more so personality, but especially in battle, they have had development. Even if in some it was late as the Oak Ranch with a Paul episode. But remember, Dracovish and Surfetched a while ago had development together as buddies who helped each other learn new moves. And we saw that in this battle with Surfetched. So Surfetched was not messing around, took down two of Cynthia's Pokemon, did damage to one. I'm not a fan of the gimmick. I think if they had used it once in the last 25 years, it would have been fine. I'm not a fan of the thing where the anime constantly does this. It's annoying. They'll have two Pokemon that battle, clash, and they're standing there. I think the one that was done the most well done was Ash versus Paul. I rewatched that the other night, and so the white background, the heartbeat, that was great. But I don't like it. It's annoying. It's classical trolling. And they did something that, again, the first time they did it, it was interesting. It's something you could do. But they did it again. I wasn't a huge fan of it. Not enough to take out a point, though. But Surfetched fainted standing up. Wasn't totally appalled. Maybe for some people, it's their first time watching a Pokemon series. And for them, that was cool. That was, everything like that. Yeah, but for me, not so much, honestly. Um, but it was, so I'm bringing up all these negative things because so many things leading up to this episode were not good, and I brought up the few things I didn't like. So I'm getting the point across that for me it wasn't a perfect 10 out of 10. But again, watch this episode. If you're gonna watch anything that's aired in the tournament so far, if you've heard too many negative things, you want to skip over it. Well, for context, you might, and it's not that long. There haven't been that many episodes. You might want to watch the tournament, but at the very least, watch Cynthia vs. Ash Part 1. But if you really, really couldn't be bothered, watch this. I mean, it starts off pretty clean, with Ash having three Pokemon left and going from there. It's not in the middle of a particular battle. So, anyway, it was very good. People have been talking a lot on YouTube about, oh, she's not using Mega Garchomp. She's going to Dynamax Togekiss. What a waste. Type advantages or this stat. Again, it's your life, but I can't appreciate spending hours online looking up obscure game stats just to prove a point to put down an episode. But whatever. Again, game logic does not translate into the anime, and what Cynthia was going for was surprise. And we, the audience, the people in that universe, might think her Mega Garchomp is her strongest. Could be that her Dynamax Togekiss is, and she was hiding that to throw people off. She's a brutal battler. By the way, she's kind, she's beautiful, but man, is she merciless on the battlefield. It's been overall with this episode. enjoyable, seeing Ash go up against her. And Ash isn't backing down either. He's talked about how, said to her face, he's going to surpass her and go on to fight Leon. She said confidently too, you know, she's going to go on to fight Leon, etc., and win the whole thing. She had also, before the battle started, talking about how she's planning to step down. So it could be for a few things. Some I like more than others. Some people suggested it might be like with Volkner. She doesn't feel like she's got much of a passion anymore. Maybe Ash will reunite by beating her. She thinks she's going to win this whole thing, and it's all too easy. Not in a mean way, but she has a slight bit of arrogance on her part. A little conceited. Nothing crazy like Kanto Gary, but she's very sure of herself. That's okay. It's already been done with Faulkner, though. Um, some people have suggested maybe it's because she wants to focus full time on being an archaeologist, or a Pokemon, mythologist as a passion. Sure. I mean, the anime has no problem suggesting that if you're under a certain age, being a Pokemon trainer can be a full time job. You travel around the world until journeys that was very time consuming. But as an adult, all of a sudden, you also have a career that you juggle with being a Pokemon trainer. Fine, life isn't static, but um, it's interesting. So it might be that she's just focusing on one thing. But the biggest one that I've been hearing going around lately is just that you know she is looking to retire as kind of a combination of the first two, but also kind of just ageism on the anime's part. It's no accident that we have a universe where 90% of the trainers you see are children. So they might be saying, well, she's 24, I believe. She's 24 years old, 24 whole years old. She's got no business doing this. She should step down. What I would say to that is, well, look at Agatha of the original Kanto Elite Four. And I think the if that's what they're getting at, the franchise is doing itself a lot of disservices. As I've said in other videos, when it comes to how they don't always treat older fans well, I know kids are your demographic, but whether it's this or MLP, the last version, not the newest one, any other franchise where a lot of adults like a kid franchise, yeah, you might have some spoiled brats who get their parents to buy stuff for them, but it's the adults with a disposable income, especially if you think of a stereotypical nerdy, techie, six-digit figure person who will spend all this money on video games or gamer Pokecoins and Pokemon Go, the cards, the games, etc., etc. Look at a lot of people who go to these championships. The point is, I think they'd be doing a disservice by being ageist with phasing Cynthia out because of her age. So I'd like to think it's the second one. She just wants to focus on her profession because the first one, the Waldner thing, is way, 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 way too redundant. Anyway, I'm looking forward to next week a lot, and I'm thinking Ash will win. So a few more things before I go today. I will be doing a video for that. Then I might not post anything regarding Pokemon or really. There's a lot going on outside my camera in my life that I don't really know if I necessarily should be putting too much time into a very startup YouTube channel right now. But the point is, I will be doing a part 3 analysis, and after that, I might step back for a little bit and wait for a bunch of episodes to air. And I don't think I'm going to have much of an opinion on the non battling Leon or penultimate Project Mew stuff. So that's probably just going to be recapped really quickly like I did with other things in this video. With that said, let's get to the meat and potatoes beyond what I've already talked about. So, do I think Ash can beat Cynthia? I think it's possible he could lose. As we heard about the leak with the background music and what the executive producer, the music composer who made that said, it's about Ash being frustrated that he can't even defeat Cynthia to go on to fight Leon. Now, I don't know which one that is. I didn't listen to it, actually. I've heard this tossed around a lot. But we heard a lot of melancholic music in parts of the second part when he thought he was probably going downhill. We'll probably see it again in part 3. Maybe it's already past us. I think it's very, very more likely that it's an emotion that he's thinking that at the time. I think he can defeat her, and I think it's likely that he will, but he could lose. Now, Here's a big thing that I think is going to happen, though. Um, so the leaker from, I think it's Hong Kong, it's not really important where he's from, but the one who first appeared last spring and started giving these leaks, every single thing that's been leaked has happened except for one thing. And the leaker had said that at one point Paul would suggest to Ash that he bring his A team, his best Pokemon. Maybe that was a mistranslation or someone misunderstood, and what is what already occurred. So, oh no, that was just his current Pokemon learning new moves from his old Pokemon. Here's what I think though. If the Riders let Ash win here, it would be really weird to have him go up against Leon with his current team because he's winning against Cynthia at this point. Kind of honestly more like a tie at this point. But the point is, it still feels like he's barely getting by here. Like he defeated Cynthia in spite of the fact that she very easily could have won, as opposed to he beat her. You kind of have to watch it to get what I'm getting at. So what I'm thinking about is this. I think it's likely he's going to defeat Cynthia, but he's going to realize he barely barreled through this. Oh yeah, and what did Leon say about himself? He always watches and learns from his opponents. And Ash has used all of his special props at this point, all the new moves his Pokemon have learned. He can't defeat Leon. Not to mention Leon's very OP right now. So, what to do? This might be the step because they took a break in the show's universe, people going home in one day. So I think when the semifinals end, there's going to be like a break where it happens in one day or two, where Paul approaches Ash and he tells him, "Hey, look, if you're serious about this, you've got to tap into your reserves." And this is a long call from back in last spring when we were all thinking he would bring his older Pokemon back from the beginning. So we were all speculating, up to 18 different Pokemon he might use. Well, disappointingly, he's probably just going to use five because Pikachu will definitely be in the final battle. Um, Likely, very, very likely. It isn't unprecedented that Pikachu hasn't been used in really important battles, like Ash beat Gary without it, but I think it's safe to say Pikachu is going to be in it. So that's five mystery card Pokemon. We'll see who they are. And I think they've been hinting at a lot, just showing them all, watching him. And remember, in the preview, we see them watching. In fact, it's kind of a giveaway that he does defeat Cynthia. Oak and Dalia and his Pokemon aren't going to get off from the TV, travel, and get there on time on a plane to see the rest of Ash vs. Cynthia. And they're 2/3 of the battle through, sitting there watching. I don't think they're going to go there to look scared and tense. As you saw in the preview, watching Leon versus Cynthia, why would they care? So yeah, I think this is definitely confirmation Ash is going to defeat Cynthia. I always have to remind myself about that. And I think people on the internet who forget that a lot have overlooked that. But the point is, seeing his Pokemon in the stands in that preview, the original one from last spring, I think that really confirms he's definitely going to be using his reserves. So I'm very excited for that. Um, and I'm hoping the end of Project Mew will be interesting. I don't dislike Go. I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't. I have no problem with him catching Mew. Just I'm interested in what they do for a plot device for that. We'll see what happens. All right, so on to the bad news. Yeah, you knew it was coming. So, after part three, they're going to have another recap episode about Go training up to get to where he is now in Project Mew. Nobody asked for this. Even people who don't dislike Go, nobody asked for this. We don't need that. We don't need a recap about this. This is just them being lazy, honestly. All these recaps, it's really just been the writers being lazy, not wanting to put the time and effort into making some episodes, that are ideally what would have happened in the spring is we would have had spectacular 6v6 battles with all 8 trainers. Project Mew could have been much more of a big grand scale thing, 4 or 5 parts, like the Team Flare arc at the end of XYZ. But the writers were lazy. Now, some people have blamed COVID. COVID happened 2 years ago, 2.5 precisely, when it affected the show. And that was 2 months. And they had 2.5 years to work with after that. Okay, throw out 6 or 7 filler episodes, which they didn't do. There's no excuse for this. Some people have talked about A-team writers or budget. Don't think you have to worry about budget too much. Don't know what's going on with Pokemon, but I do know that the trend I've heard is over the last decade they've been outsourcing to keep costs cheaper to South Korea. I've even heard some rumors about North Korea. I don't want to get into that. The point is, no, I don't think a budget is an issue they've been worrying about, and I don't think it's an issue where some of the writers are better than others. Honestly, I think we've seen substandard writing since Journeys began, though. Honestly, um, I just think it's laziness, honestly. So we're getting another recap episode nobody wants, and then we get an episode where you would think, okay, they're leading up to it then. So we begin the beginning of Project Mew, right? Well, no, they revealed the title. Go and uh, his rabbit foot is that it's his evolved rabbit. They go to the so the title suggests that they go to a place of origin. I'm like, okay, do they go there to restock mentally or prepare for Project Mew? The whole episode is about them going back to the place where they were the Galarian foxes. I guess they're evolved now. They're not terrible anymore, causing mayhem. And he and his Rabbitfoot reconnect with them, and then Team Rocket comes with the evolved form of Galarian Meowth. These things are always unscripted, guys. That's why I'm always having these mind farts. Um, and yeah, so they come with the evolved form of Galarian Meowth to wreak mayhem. It's a standard weird filler episode, and it's really weird. Team Rocket goes from their cheerleading money, make money self. Well, they're not being waiters of this league. They're being so-called TV hosts. Don't even understand where that's going. As far as their mission, honestly, because when they were pretending to be waiters, well, pretending when they were being waiters part time, it was to make money for the Team Rocket organization. I don't know what they're doing being fake reporters and recording this. It's like this is going back to the headquarters to monitor the top champions. That would be spectacular writing on the virus part, but they wouldn't care to do that. They're just playing around with the Rocket Trio. And then they all of a sudden do a random filler-esque level stupid appearance in this episode. So this episode is not only after a recap episode that nobody wants, but it has nothing to do with Project Mew. And after that, we have another week off. This is the third time they've done this. And as someone who has watched the anime since it first came out in America back in the day, and then consistently followed since the end of Diamond Pearl, the Japanese release, I can tell you they've never done this before. This many recaps or breaks. They usually do a break once a year for something. It was usually with Naruto or baseball, and they'd make up for it because there was a movie coming out that summer. They don't do that anymore, and it's really been disgusting how they're treating fans by doing this. It's unexcusable. So, what does that leave us? I don't know, to be honest. So we will be at that point into let's see. So at that point, we will be into the second Friday of October, and people are speculating that gives about five episodes at best, or four. So the question is, will the new games have an anime equivalent coming out the same week the games come out? I think the show could come out a whole week later, honestly. And if you have the week where the new games come out being bolstered by Ash winning a tournament that week, I think that's better advertising for people to be excited about getting brand new games than just starting from square one of an episode one. It'll be 4 or 5 episodes we have to work with, though. I think it's safe to say we are not going to get the Kukui length 4 part that we should be getting. It's definitely going to be a 3 part if Ash defeats Leon. Don't know how they're going to squeeze in Project Mew now. So that leads to the last thing. There have been discussions about, well, even if this is Ash's final journey, he doesn't lose to Leon, and he does become a champion, where does that leave us? And it'll be really weird. I think it's safe to say there won't be loose ends tied up. You're still going to have the Rocket Trio and the organization around. And if Ash is retired, and I'll get to that in a minute, they're going to be harassing some new poor soul. Maybe they get scared off that they can't defeat a world champion. So there's been rumors, not by the leaker, so they're just rumors, that Go could become the new main character among two other people. So each does their own quests, like in the new games. In the anime, there might be even four. It's like, three trainers for each quest, and then Go's thing with Project Mew. That would be disastrous. Like I said, I have never seen a character hated as much as Go as far as main characters go. More than Sophocles, more than Tracy. It's pretty bad, guys. I've never seen it. I can't understand why they would bring him back as a main character. So safe to say, we might not see Project Me wrapped up, let alone other characters getting their stories tied up for loose ends. We might barely get a decent almost 4 part episode of Ash versus Leon. We'll see. And then they abruptly do a shift, which leads to the last thing. Why am I still? And one, we're disappearing by the day, but a lot of people, as recently as last spring, thought it was likely Ash could be retired. He could very well show up again in the next Gen 9 anime. Now, if you go on YouTube, you're going to see tons of people saying that is fact. When you watch the video, like, oh, well, this is my theory, or some rumor that somebody made up. It's a dead end. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think Ash losing to Leon is a reasonable plot device, because they've been obsessing that this is one goal for this whole 3-year period, this whole series. If he does become the strongest trainer, it's going to be boring seeing him battle. He shouldn't really ever lose again. If he's always winning, it's not interesting. He's not going to have opponents that should be able to go neck to neck with him. What's he going to do? Just loaf around? But the big thing is, another reason I don't think it's impossible that Ash is going to be written off is we still don't have any previews or any news releases official about the Gen 9 anime. And I had asked a friend who had watched he watched as a kid Kando through Johto, kind of dropped it, picked it up again. He knows Japanese. He learned that in the meantime. Finished Johto. Never got around to recapping Hoenn, but he picked up Sinnoh halfway through with the Team Galactic arc and followed all the way through the end of Kalos XYZ. And I asked him, hey, do you remember any other time where it was this close that they hadn't revealed any new information? Because I remember watching the Sinnoh League in the summer, and they had already started revealing Iris and Dent. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure around now, September, they had shown Ash and Pikachu, like the new Iron Tail, the new pumped up graphic one in the previews. I'm pretty sure I remember being initially put off and reading about how at the end of Kalos, Ash is going to school now, and he's going to graduate, and it looked very silly. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the point is, I'm pretty sure by now some of that information had come out, and it could happen today, could happen any day now. I could be eating crow by the time this video is released. But what I'm getting at is, with those two things, it would be dumb to bring Ash back at this point. And we haven't seen, it's been very guarded. We haven't seen anything official about the Gen 9 anime yet. I think they're definitely going to probably go for a fresh start with a Gen 9 anime. And I think it's very unlikely because money. But kind of like how they silently stopped making the movies. Maybe they don't make a 52 episode a year, 3-year anime from this point on. They just do web exclusives. That's possible too. It's going to be really weird seeing characters restricted to one area, going on a badge quest, and even 2 other new things. It's going to be really weird to go back to that format after we just spent an anime where the characters travel around the world and they're not restricted to one place. They're on a plane every episode that you don't even see them on the plane for more than 5 seconds. So it's going to be a messy next few months. And I think the best outcome, it couldn't still be a satisfactory outcome. I think the best outcome we're going to see is Ash defeats Leon. Go concludes Project Mew in the next show. Let's see, make a web exclusive thing about that. Hey, they tried Amazon Prime exclusive last year. Kind of like how a lot of Ash's friends off camera, got further to or reached their goals. We'll even show like an end credit scene, or kind of like how, I think another good example too is um, Lily finding her dad, and they said at the end of Alola, "Oh, this is going to happen," and we knew already because again we heard the information already, before that series was over about what the format was going to be. In fact, I remember it was yeah, September when we heard about this stuff. So we knew that at one point they would complete it, and with a world trotting series, we would definitely see it in the series, and we did. That might happen with Go and Project Mew. The Rocket Trio, let alone the organization, they're going to be harassing some poor soul, whether it's Go or not, indefinitely, it would seem. So we won't get that wrapped up. But I think that's what's going to happen over the next few months. Anyway, for the 1, 2, 3 of you, I actually got a subscriber, by the way, last month watching this. Thanks for hearing me rant for a half hour. I hope that made up for the month long drought. I'll be in touch.